Want to get started?
Yep.
Let's do it. You ready? You're ready. You're ready. Everybody ready?
Ready.
We're ready. All right. Situate Board of Health meeting, Scituate Town Hall, Selectmen's Hearing Room, Monday, October 27th, 2014. We'll open the meeting. I will take a motion to accept the agenda.
Yep, I make a motion to accept the agenda for the Scituate Board of Health for Monday, October 27th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving right along. Public hearing, septic system, 30 Inner Harbor Road, continuance, Title V septic system design, Morse Engineering representing homeowner.
How are you?
Come on up.
Our plan right here. We presented this to the board at one of the last meetings. We're doing a septic system repair project at 30 Inner Harbor Road. That's over at the Peggy Beach parking lot. If you drive through the parking lot, Inner Harbor Road extends off it. There's, I don't know, 5 houses down there or so. I shaded the house in brown. You can see it here. It's a 4,800 square foot lot. The lot's bold. This is on a barrier beach system. The beach is out here, Peggy Beach itself. We have a velocity zone that encompasses the entire property. The velocity zone splits from elevation 17 to 15 along this dashed line. The existing septic system is a cesspool located right here with some sort of overflow leaching trench that was constructed off it at some point. It failed the Title V inspection, so we were hired to design the new system. In designing the new system, we are looking for a couple of local upgrade approvals and a waiver from the local rules and regulations. The ones that we're specifically looking at, Title V basically needs this board to make 2 determinations with respect to the septic system. One is in a velocity zone, you're not allowed to build a septic tank below the velocity zone elevation unless you determine that it's unfeasible to raise the tank. Secondly, the same is basically said for a soil absorption system, that you're allowed to replace a soil absorption system that was in existence prior to March 31st, 1995, but there are a list of requirements that you have to meet. So I guess we submitted the plan. We are hopeful that you'll determine it's unfeasible to keep the septic tank above the velocity zone. I guess we'll tackle that first. We originally submitted this, and the response back from the town engineer was, could we tie into town sewer? That's an option that we would consider if this board feels it necessary to approach the selectmen for town sewer. In the event that that would be denied, or the board thinks that we can't do that, this is the system I'd like to move forward with. You'll see that what we're proposing is a new septic tank below the existing house. It is below the ground surface. It is not above the velocity zone elevation. You'll notice that the ground surface here is at elevation 10, plus or minus. The velocity zone is at elevation 15 or 17. That means the tank would have to be elevated in the air a minimum of 7 feet to get above the velocity zone 17 elevation. We look at where we could site that tank 7 feet above the ground surface. What I shaded in red are the zoning setbacks, because now we're elevating a tank and we would have to build a structure around it, A, to protect it against the weather, but secondly, to prevent it from being subject to UV issues.
What's the top of piling?
21 feet, 22 feet, first floor elevation.
So 7 feet above that is 25, so it's higher than
It's higher than
the structure now.
the structure.
Yeah.
So the areas in red are the structure setbacks that zoning has. We can't put a structure in there. So
So these are 8 feet? What is it?
these are 8 feet
Yeah.
off the sides. Out front, we have a right-of-way, 20 feet in width across the front. We have 2 parking spaces in the driveway. You're required to have parking spaces for your house. And so the areas that are in white are the areas, I guess, that you could maybe try to build a septic tank.
Well, I guess the only thing I would add, I've been out to the site a couple times.
Yeah.
I would think that the parking, the parking area is in play.
Yep.
Meaning that if it had to be, if it was put under, you know, you have to do the H20 with parking over it, but I don't necessarily think that that's off limits.
Yep.
As we sort of consider
Sure.
what we can do here. I mean, it's gravel,
Sure.
because I'll go back to the question I asked the last meet, well, or
Yep,
the road is here.
correct.
The original road was where?
Yeah, it was up
Here.
somewhere.
Okay. So this used to be a backyard. So, you know, we've already, Mother Nature has already claimed the actual road. This is now, what was the backyard is now the road.
Yeah, passageway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you, and the structure is it's in the passageway
It
anyways.
is. So,
Yeah.
so let's look at doing something over here. So we're putting a tank 7 feet up in the air above the ground surface, parking under it, sure. There's the advantage, obvious, or not the advantage, the purpose of the regulation is that you're getting the tank out of the area that's subject to wave action. Okay? The disadvantages, though, that I see in this case of raising the tank, one, there's a cost disadvantage, okay? Installing that tank would require driving piles, it would require building a structure around the tank, it would require insulating it, it would require heating it. So those things all add up. They add up in the tune of $20,000 just for that elevation of the tank. Secondly, the feasibility of all the piping right now goes down out of the bottom of the house. We have to put a pump chamber under the house. So we're already going to have a tank of some kind under the house, a pump chamber, which is then going to require electricity, and then it's going to pump it up to the septic tank, and then it's going to flow by gravity back down into the ground. So now, where we only have one pipe coming from the house flowing by gravity down into the ground, now we're going to have 3 pipes that are exposed to the weather. One of them, if it's a force main, will always have water in it, so it'll be subject to freezing. So we're going to have to insulate and heat that pipe. It just becomes a plumbing nightmare to do it.
and if it was just a seasonal use from October to May, would that require the insulation and whatnot?
If it was seasonal, probably not. This is a year-round residence. I don't know if they use it as such, but it could be a year-round
Well, they're gonna
residence.
sell it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you know,
Yeah. So, putting a pump chamber below the house, now you're grinding all of your effluent coming out of the house before it goes to a septic tank, which requires a variance in itself. You're not allowed to pump more than 25% of your septic flows prior to a septic tank, because it turns it into a slurry, and that's bad for your leaching field. So, it is,
let me carry this to the extreme, and
Yep.
it's not this particular application. Next blizzard comes in, and there's 3 feet of standing water under the house at all times.
Yeah.
Putting it in ground wouldn't then not even be an option. You can't put it underwater.
put in the septic tank underwater,
Yeah, if, not this house, but,
any of these houses?
yeah. I mean, because it's not a question of if it's gonna happen, it's when. And so, and when could be a long time from now, could be, or could be this winter. But, and we can't be the first ones to, this can't be the first example, whether it be Squish Down Plymouth, or Plum Island, or Chatham. What have they done? Or on some of these cliffs that erode and wipe out half the yard where the tank, what do they do in those cases?
I've done, the closest ones I've done have all been down in Plymouth. In the past year, I've
Yeah.
probably done 2 in very similar situations, and they've waived the tank requirement being elevated. We have done elevated tanks. The places where we've done elevated tanks are typically in Humrock. We might have a little bit bigger yard, or we might have a new construction scenario. But down in Plymouth, where I've had repairs in velocity zones, they've waived the tank requirement being elevated. So.
It's a
if
tough
this-
one on me. I was
Yeah,
waiting-
no,
I was waiting to
the
get your
whole thing-
thoughts, because
It is.
the there's no doubt whatever path you take, it's a lesser of evils. It's a, you know, it's a, because there's really no optimum.
Yeah.
Well, this one here, to me, the tank is far enough back. There's so much dune out in front of here, you know what I mean? It really doesn't bother me unless they were to really redo the house. And then at that case, then,
Yeah.
you know what, but if this is a repair, I mean, you're doing the best you can. I can't see spending the money either. Plus, too, the way I look at it, this tank is gonna be above what's existing to make it conform. I mean, get a variance, but
Yeah.
variance on variance on variance.
Yeah.
You're still asking for variances.
We're still asking for variances on this one.
Matter of fact, I think anybody would hate to hear it, but I think the cesspools work the best down there, deep in the ground.
Functionality-wise, absolutely, they
Yeah.
function the best.
Yeah, they don't get washed
From a
out.
protection standpoint,
They're
then they
deep.
fail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So how deep will the field be here?
So the leaching field, what we did is we went out during a high tide event. It was a 9.1 foot tide event. And we observed standing water at high tide at elevation 3.6. We're asking for a reduction from 5 feet of separation down to 4 feet of separation from that high tide event. So, that being said, the top of the chamber is at elevation 9. The ground surface over here is, you know, a little over elevation 11, almost 12. So there's 2.5 feet of cover over this system too.
now you did the perk test at, what, a tide event at 9?
A high tide event with a 9-foot tide.
How come you didn't wait till a higher tide?
Until a higher tide?
Yeah, aren't we supposed to do those at like an 11 or above?
That's the next waiver that I'm asking for.
Yeah. I think, well, I don't know, my
So-
own opinion, it'd probably go back and pop a hole open. I hate to do it, but that's why everybody does them at high tide.
Well, I mean, we did it at high tide. It's
No,
no
I meant
question. Yeah.
lunar high tide.
Lunar high tide, okay.
I think it's
So-
supposed to be, our regulation's above 11 feet.
Yours-
I myself don't see any reason to waive that, I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's, everybody's done it,
yeah.
everybody,
Let's talk about it a little bit.
yeah.
So, Title V doesn't require it to be a lunar high tide, they require a high tide event, and that's what we did. You allow it, your local regulations allow me to do it any time of the month during a high tide event. If it's not an 11-foot high tide, I'm allowed to make an adjustment. So, I did it at a 9-foot tide. If I did it at an 11-foot tide, essentially, the whole system would be coming up about a foot, okay? You don't think of 9 to 11, you think 2 feet. Well, that's a foot on high and a foot on low. So the tide would be coming up a foot. What I like about waiving the requirement is I like having more cover over the top of the system. I think it protects it more in a storm event. The lunar high tide event, you're gonna get that event, you know, once a month, you're gonna have that 11-foot cycle. And if that came up, that there would push that groundwater up another foot, so it would be elevation 10 or so. That would put my groundwater separation at 3 feet, you know, for that one day a month. This here complies with Title V and gives it so that I have 2.5 to almost 3 feet of cover over the system, which I like for the storm events. Could I raise it to comply with 11? Yes, but now I'm going to be down to a foot of cover, which complies, but I'm thinking, as we get the storms, that foot of cover on the top is going to be wishy-washy. So, I mean, I certainly would be willing to raise it. I tried to keep it deep, to try to keep a little bit more protection on it. That's why we did it.
Yeah, sand could come in or it could go out, who knows? It depends on which way the wind blows.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
That last storm we had down at Humrock Beach was a undermining storm. Moved a lot of material away. Who knows?
so,
Who knows? I just know that almost all cases anywhere near water, it's done at 11 plus. And then there's no question.
yeah.
It's done. And I've seen people go back and just pop a hole and measure it and done. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I'm certainly willing to do the hole or to do the adjustment and raise it. I just think, you know, the best engineering practices, I'm trying to give us some sort of storm protection here as well on it. I think if my ground surface elevation was higher then I think I'd be okay. If I'm raising the elevation here and creating a mound, I feel like I'm asking for it to be washed out.
Which then, does that give you at all pause to then have it elevated? Have the tank elevated?
It's just a matter of doing the groundwater, that's all, just so you know. It might not change, you don't know. It might come up a little, might not change, who knows? Again, it's just in the past. Everybody else has done it. I hate to rewrite rules. That's all. It's my own opinion. It's my own opinion. Usually, every time perk tests are done at 11 tide or plus, and groundwater's measured, and it is what it is. It chips out where they fall.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to have you bring another machine out there, and it's gonna
But I mean,
take, it's gonna take 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I can make the adjustment. We have the tide charts, so I know that it's gonna come up. It's gonna come up, about a foot. It's gonna come up a foot in elevation, so. And I have that room to play with, so it just removes a foot from the top of it.
Yeah, which gives it another foot for it to flow down.
Yeah.
I think we've had some problems out on Peggotty Beach with pollution.
Yeah,
And sometimes the finger's been pointed at substandard septic systems.
I'm sure it has.
I don't know if that's the answer or not, but it's been considered a culprit.
Yeah.
So if it has a little more material to flow through, for most of the time, that's a better thing.
Yeah.
Does this scour out here? Does the water come over this dune? Does it scour,
I don't
or does
think
it
it
come
does.
over the dune and wash the sand under the house? I mean, is the gravel driveway old? Has it been there a while, or do they have to replace it every year? Do they have to take it out
I
every
think
year?
every year they clean out Inner Harbor Road.
Yeah, because it fills in?
It fills in.
Even the
This-
day I was there, there was a guy running around in his bobcat.
Throwing the sand back over.
Well,
And some of these
Well,
systems here, they
well,
used
doing all
to, we used to put cement bounds in to keep the elevation where you knew that if you're only allowed 2 or 3 feet of cover over the system, there was a benchmark there to say it's too much or it's too little. If it's too much, it's not getting the oxygen. If it's too little, then you could have a puddle.
Right.
So it kind of, I think you have 2 feet to play with there, but those were requirements we had in the past, too.
Yeah, we could certainly put, a couple of elevation.
I think that was more
right
a
on-
conservation
Right
issue.
on the right on the piling.
Yeah, put
Yeah, a spike.
a railroad spike in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, the size of the system, why is it reduced by 20%?
Yeah, we asked for a 20% size reduction, just because of this is a 10 scale plan, so it's not the 20 scale plan you're used to seeing. It is 10 feet off of the side lot line. It's 5 feet off the rear lot line. And we didn't want to push the system further closer to the road because you can see the elevation's dropping off as you get closer to the road here.
Right.
So we were trying to keep it up in this
7 feet,
high
this has got to
spot.
be marsh out here.
Yeah, marsh is right off the plan here. Yeah.
How close is the marsh? How close is the wetland?
It's right, it's 20 feet over. I mean, the whole site's classified as wetland, so.
That's a tough one. I mean, I've been out there a couple times.
Is conservation going to ask you for the wetland lines,
I just scratched my
for the
head.
setbacks?
Not for that, because the whole site is within a wetland in their eyes anyways,
Oh, okay.
so.
So it's in within a
it's in
50
coastal
foot, it's
beach,
within
so
the
it's-
100.
Yeah, yeah. It's on it.
Can the system move this way at all, to pick up the 20%?
The problem with moving it this way is now you're into this driveway area,
Mhm.
and you're under the house here, you're under a deck over here.
Yes, you're under the house, you're under the deck. Can this slide this way a little bit to pick up?
But a newer deck. I mean, this
Yeah,
deck
newer
is,
deck,
I mean,
yeah.
this deck is,
So,
I mean, that's the problem. This house,
should
started
want-
it started off this big, and now it's this big. That's the and then this deck got added. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, the problem is there's no space because the house has grown to absorb all the space.
Oh, they're going to have a fun time under there. It's going to have to be practically hand dug.
pretty much.
Yeah. But I just looking at it, that if this moved, because it looks like the way this parking here is, it may be just the way the contour lines are interpolated.
Yeah, so this It's pretty flat. You have elevation 8, you have elevation 9, and then there's a steep embankment right here. It goes from 9 up to 11.
Right.
So it's coming up, right there. And that elevation 11 wraps around the system this way. So, taking another finger and sticking it over here, you'd
You
probably
have to
be
bring the dune
sticking-
back here.
Exactly.
You have to
Changing
rebuild the
that.
dune, yeah. I mean, I understand you're doing the best you're doing, I just,
This is a tough one.
Yes.
This is a tough one. This.
because you can do things, that's the, I see. And, obviously, there's no houses out here, this one's too close. Is there a house next door? Where's their septic system? I think we said this at the last meeting, if there's variances,
Yeah, so we
to
can-
property line,
there's-
it would be nice to know where the septic system is to make sure that there's not a cesspool right there.
Yeah.
or-
There's
or
a
something
minimum
else.
of a 10-foot setback from a septic to an adjoining septic, and ours is 10.7 off the lot line, so
Even if theirs goes onto the water lot line.
we're okay in that case.
10 feet to septic to septic.
Yeah.
What is that, is that in Title V?
It is. Yeah. Between adjacent leaching systems, you're supposed to have a minimum of 10 feet.
But it's not 10 off there. They could be right up to the lot line.
They could be on one of these old cesspools that was built back in the 50s. Sure, they could have built it there.
I'll have to reread that, because, I mean, you're supposed to be 20 feet off the property line, so it's almost like you want
10 with the leaching field.
10 on the leaching field, excuse me, so it's like you want 20,
Yeah, I mean, that's what Title V is pushing with every new system. You're going to get 20.
Right. I just hate to see something encroach on someone else's. Not that you really have any room to do it, just more for the abutters, but seeing how
How
we
many square
have.
feet's the field, bedroom-wise?
It's a 5-bedroom.
What's five?
Design.
600 or something, or 550?
Yeah, 5-bedroom. We're providing 592 square feet. It was a class 1 sand, less than 2 minutes an inch, so it's a very, generous loading rate, 0.75. So,
See, that's, yet the house grew to a 5-bedroom with an inadequate cesspool. I think that's a problem.
and the cesspool, functionality-wise,
But-
functions,
but-
it handles the
But it
flow.
didn't start up, like,
You're right.
when they started adding bedrooms, that should have been called out.
Yeah, I don't know when they
Yeah.
started adding bedrooms,
Well,
though.
it doesn't matter.
Well, if it was done in the 70s or 80s, I mean,
No, well, whenever it was done, it was done.
right. I mean, I think the big Title V revamp was in 95, right? And that's when they really called out bedroom count and
Mhm.
the whole 9 yards. And if you do over 50%, then you gotta come up to meet code.
Well, you could just
And
check.
plus, too, the other
well,
thing
you could
was
check
to-
by the building department records. on
Right.
when- On when the,
Right,
and when
then it should have been called.
When it went from a 2-3-bedroom cottage.
And if this
to-
house has
to a
been
f-
in-
To a 5-bedroom.
And if it's been in the same family forever, that covers everything too.
But you
know?
still have building department records
Right.
on when it
Right.
increased in size.
Right.
It could have been 97, it could have been 87, it could
Well,
have
if it's
been,
on
it could have
pilings,
it could have been
obvious.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, when did the pilings go in?
I think the pilings were around 2006. I think they applied for one of the FEMA grants. I have an existing conditions plan that shows the footprint of the house, the same size at that point in time. I don't know about the interior.
That's probably run into with the old cesspools, is you have a summer cottage that was used for 2 months,
Yeah.
and it goes year round, and a big family moves in and failure.
Um,
Yeah, I don't, well, back to the tank, I don't have a problem with the tank.
Mhm.
I don't, I mean.
Okay. I could go either way on it, I really could. I think nothing's ideal in this particular case, and you
It's
just
gonna be-
you just have to pick your poison, and
That's, yeah. It's que vi temptar, I mean, let the buyer beware, that tank gets washed out, then it's gonna go up, or if they do major reconstruction, then it may have to more comply with, this is a repair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you're gonna do a major reconstruction, then you better plan on building an outhouse
Yeah.
for the tank and not worry about the plumbing issues, because they've been handled before. So, I mean, it's a pain in the
Yeah.
neck. It's like a tight tank.
Yeah.
That's your option, that's your option.
Yeah.
And you certainly would want to see that.
No. No. Actually, the tie-in to the sewer would be the way to go, but the selectmen, if we can make this work, and it works, that's
Yeah.
what we've been under, believe me. There's a lot of places like that. And, yeah, the only thing, like I say, it's just the groundwater. I mean, if you can adjust it and that works within our guidelines, then that's what it is.
Okay.
If you think you'll do better, you can go out and pop another hole and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a little machine, little bucket, how far do you
That's
have
all
to
it
dig
is.
down?
Yeah, we didn't dig very deep.
5 feet and you hit water?
Exactly. So, I'll look at the next couple of tide cycles, see when we have an 11-foot tide. If it's
Beginning of
not for
November.
a while, beginning of November, okay.
Next week.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, let me look at that and maybe I'll do another test pit. So, I have no problems, raising the system, whether it's by test pit or making an adjustment, I'll raise it. That's fine. That eliminates the need for your local waiver right there.
Come back with that, or you want to make?
No, I think Jen can handle that as long as
Okay.
it's taken care of.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just puts it in line with everybody else, that's all.
Yep,
It's-
that's fine. Not asking for any
No, I
favors.
always feel bad for the person that went through the ringer and they did what they were supposed to do, and it's tough to have somebody walk in and you've drawn a nice plan and you've done a good job and there's no complaint there, it's just,
Sure,
sure,
sure. Sure.
keeps everybody on the same playing field.
Yeah,
You want to make a motion then?
You can make a motion.
So accept the plan as is, except, with the exception of.
The adjustment of groundwater.
Okay, so I make a motion to accept the plan for 30 Inner Harbor Road as is, with the exception of changing the groundwater.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
great. Thank you very much.
Good luck with it.
That's a tough one. Be better now.
All right, any new business? No new business? That's it, you say that with a, you didn't even say anything, you just smiled. That's
Some
good.
new business, good news, we had 125, did you tell me?
We did, so we improved our advertising for the flu shot clinic, and we had just over 150 residents come in for their shots as opposed to the one prior, which was less than 30.
Wow.
So we put the highway sign at the transfer station, and folks have said that that was a really good means by which they learned of the clinic.
Velocity area.
So that was
Traffic's
good.
Good.
And the process for filling Mary's position is moving forward. We expect the interview process to conclude this week. So hopefully we'll have an offer out in the next week or so.
Okay. All right.
Cool, cool, cool.
Maybe, do we have any invoices?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, all right.
No.
Any other old business we want to, how the hoarding issue's doing? We had something down in the Glades, any,
We have some improvement down the Glades that will require continued follow-up on a regular basis, so that we don't see any regression. We do have some other hoarding issues at other properties in town that are coming to the forefront.
to the forefront, so we don't know about them yet?
Correct.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And Country Way is the same as when we last visited it in terms of condemnation.
Nobody's been in it? Great.
Excellent.
And then we'll put down the well regs on the agenda for the next meeting. Get back up with that.
All right.
Awesome. And windmill, have we had any communication? We have one more round of testing to go with the windmill. Has there been any
We still have.
prodding to say, guys, are you keeping it still, are we still getting weather reports from them? They were sending them to predict if there would be a feasible time?
Yep, Gordon forwards the weather predictions to me each week, which are provided to him by a meteorology consultant.
Yeah.
And so far, those weather conditions haven't been met in terms of the prediction, so they haven't concluded that final test that the board required.
Okay.
Complaints still coming in?
Yes. Yeah, there are a select few here and there.
Okay.
Let's have to stay on that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Boy, that would be something great if it was, that phase of testing was put to bed by the end of the year. That would be, win, lose, or draw would be good to see. Exactly. I can't think of any other pressing issues. Everything's
Everything pretty buttoned up.
pretty buttoned up. Anything else to add?
I'll make a motion.
Mary?
I'm good.
You are.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second. There, aye, 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 aye.